You are now listening to the Eastville Podcast.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the E-Chamber Podcast. And like always, let's get right into things. You see, I was considering something, how I'm a great decision maker. It doesn't mean that I always make the best decisions, but I like my decision-making process. I like the fact that I can take in a lot of different variables, and I think I make really good, sound decisions. So even if it doesn't work out, I'm usually comfortable with that because I thought, I took my time and fought through the process and came to a good conclusion that I moved forward in. So I'm not just impulsive. And I think that people who sporadically do things and are impulsive are a bit crazy and out there, joking. But all seriousness, but something later when I really start to evaluate myself in a recent process, I realized that I had a backlog of ideas of things that I have not done. And one of the reasons I have not done it is because I overthink certain things. So this is me honest, putting the mirror up to me and realizing that sometimes I overthink certain things. And because I overthink certain things, sometimes you spend so much time in the decision-making process, you become so exhausted, you have no energy or the creativity is gone, the zip is gone, where you don't even have time or energy to execute that idea. So you have to consider, are you overthinking certain things? And you have to almost, for me, and if you're like me, you have to cut down that decision-making process, that perfectionism that you're working on, whatever it is for you, you have to, I said slow down, but you need to cut down that time a little bit. So I tested this theory out because I didn't want to just come on the podcast and say, oh, let's do this. I tested it out. And there were a lot of ideas. I didn't overthink. I thought, I've been thinking about doing this. I'm just going to go do that. So for me, it seems impulsive, right? But I've already given thought to it. But just boom, pulling the trigger on it, it seemed impulsive. But it actually wasn't because I gave some thought to it. But I was still like ruminating, thinking about it. So I just did it anyways. And a lot of those ideas turned out being great ideas. A lot of the things that I ended up doing, there was such a feeling of release that I did it, and it's like you get it off the table. And any of you that are go-getters and do a lot of things know how it feels when you're knocking off task. Sorry, snapping. I don't know how that went over the podcast. But you're knocking off task. You're just doing one thing after another. It actually gives you more creativity. It actually gives you more room to do other things because you have a whole bunch of ideas. They say the richest place is the graveyard because it is filled of ideas, undone projects, books, etc., dreams. The grave is the richest place. You don't want to go to the grave with a whole bunch of different ideas, and you don't want to be old and be full of regret. Now, of course, for you overthinkers like me, you're thinking, man, I don't want to be sporadic and just doing stuff. No, you just have to start to take a good assessment of yourself and kind of find out, when are you overthinking things. I know that I start to overthink things when I thought through the idea and I start thinking about things like, well, how will people react and how will people this? The idea is already gone. Now I'm thinking about there's the core issues, and then there's these B, C, like there's these A issues, core issues, and then there's these other issues that are uncontrollable. There's no way I can control it. There's no way I can predict what happens. And me focusing so much on that rather than focusing on the major and starting to worry about the minor starts to backlog these ideas, because then I think, well, let me give it some more thought. Let me give it some more thought. But that just takes longer, and you're not able to get things through. So I think you already know what I'm saying. One of the quickest ways to deal with that is somebody that's close to you, that you trust, that is somewhat knowledgeable in what you're saying. You bounce the idea off of them. That's one thing. Because when I bounce something off, for me, that's Crystal, my wife. When I bounce an idea off of her that I'm like humming and hawing, she's like, that's a great idea. I'm like, okay, I'm going to jump on that right away. That's all I need. But I can go outside of Crystal, and let's say it's a situation that she doesn't have a level of expertise. I can ask somebody else, whomever it is. But the whole point is that you start to jump on some of those ideas. For you that you've been considering to do a podcast, I've done a podcast. A lot of people have said they're going to do a podcast. Just jump and do it. Just go and do it. You've already given thought. You know you've given a thought already. You're considering writing a book. You're considering going back to school. You just jump and you just go and you do it. Or do a sample size version of it. Whatever it is, you already know you've given enough thought to it. And if you're an overthinker, trust me, it's very rare you're going to do any impulsive, sporadic things at all. Your quick decisions seem impulsive and sporadic, but if you're an overthinker, you probably have thought it to death anyways. So that's it for this week. As I promised, bonus episode. Take care.